Good afternoon, and welcome to AIADA's AutoTalk. I'm your host, Rachel Soleimani. Before we get started, a few quick reminders as always. Anyone who has registered for today's program will be receiving a copy by later this week. And if you have any questions, be sure to enter them into the Q&A bar at the lower right-hand side of your interface. Now, please join me in welcoming our favorite used car experts and NADA speaker circuit superstars, Bob Grill from CARFAX Industry Education, and Doug Haddon, Vice President of Field Initiatives at ACV. Doug, Bob, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks everybody for being on the call today. I hope everybody had a great holiday. And you can see the title there, it's future cost. And I got to tell you, there's probably nobody better to speak to that than my friend Bob Grill from CARFAX. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to give us I want to kind of set the stage for some of the stuff Bob's going to talk about. I kind of want to back us up just a minute and find out, look at how we got here today. I like to look at some of the black book charts that they put out for market updates. They don't have they do a pretty good job of kind of giving us an overview of where we've been, where we are, and that lets us kind of get a guess of where we're headed. As you know, the market's been very volatile, and I think every time I say that, I kind of almost want to laugh, because look at this chart. This is days to turn. So this is how long vehicles sit in inventory on average. And look, I know that 30 is our optimum, or how many times can I turn my inventory every year? It has been an absolute rocket ship ride up and down when you start to look at this data. But if you can kind of look at the 320, we all know what happened right around there. If you can go backwards from there, you can kind of see an almost normal days to turn as it kind of bounces around, has some seasonality to it. But we all know what happened there in 3/1 of 20. And you can see since then, it has just been up. It's been down. I mean, some of the when you get up over 10 to 60 days to turn on average, remember, this is average. What does that mean above average is? It's just crazy numbers. So the whole point of this particular slide is it has been a crazy ride. And I talked to my folks, and I talked to other folks at conferences and some of the big groups that I speak to. But I go, look, looks like we're headed. If you look at all the data, it looks like we're headed to something that resembles normal. But then you got to ask yourself, what is normal? You hear the anecdotal new normal. It's the new normal. Well, what's the new normal even mean? I think new normal means, what are we going to have to do to be successful today and in the future? And if we look at some of the history, it tells us, what did we do when we had 60-day turns? What was some of the things that were happening in the marketplace? We look at this chart. We went from straight up to straight down to kind of a choppy up and down to where we are today, which is actually possibly some of the highest days to turn in the last 24 months. This goes back almost 4 years. So what do? We talk about retail. What's that going to look like? What are some of the things we can? Well, before we do that, Bob, if we can go to the next slide. I kind of want to make sure everybody's aware of where the market is today. Again, this goes back almost 24 months, and we can see or 48 months, and we can see the crazy ride that we had, the same date range. But if you look at the week over week, some of the drops in some of these segments. When you look at last week's truck and SUV segment, that's almost 2 points in a week. I don't know about you guys, what you're stocking these days, but the average used car is no longer $10,000 by any stretch of the imagination. We're talking average used cars in the 20s and 30s. And if we're looking at almost 2 points per week in value loss, do that 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. What I'm trying to say is this, is we have to be more careful today than we ever have been on the vehicles that we put in our inventory. We have to pay close attention as we acquire them. We have to pay close attention as they are in our inventory. And the other piece to this is and everybody's getting much better at it. Don't get me wrong. I talk to a lot of folks. I love what I do. I get to travel the country. I get to talk to dealers and GMs and used car managers. What do you do? And I get to take some of those best practices that I see on the one coast and I get to take it to the other coast. But the one thing that I see a little bit of lack of still is that understanding of data, how to use it, how to look at it, what to do with it. But when you see stuff like this, it's very blurry. Like this is something I need to pay attention to. You know, here at ACV, I think I've been here a little over 4 years. When I first got here, I saw some of the lists of folks, my new teammates. I was trying to see if there's anybody that I knew from, other companies, all that stuff that you do when you first get hired. And one thing I noticed there was a lot of doctors in the company. And I thought, wow, I guess ACV really takes this health and well-being thing really seriously with all these doctors. Well, it turns out none of those doctors could help me with my sore elbow. They were doctors of like data scientists. Like I kept waiting to see rooms full of bottles bubbling over and steam and stuff, but that's not the kind of scientists either. So they're doctors, they're scientists, but it's all about data and looking into the data to decide, hey, what's happening today, what happened in the past, and how can I use that to determine the future? And I think that's kind of where I'm at with this whole, what's future costs when it comes to what kind of vehicles do we want to put on our front line? How do we want to acquire them to get them there? And then what do we do once they're there so we make sure we can sell them? So I'm kind of trying to bring all this back into look at the data. If you don't understand the data, you have plenty of tools, all the new modern DMSs and IMSs and all the tools that you pay for, whether you're the dealer, the GM, or the used car manager. All that data is in there. All you got to do is look, and you got to understand how to use it. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on what kind of the history has been. If you look at this today, the week-over-week wholesale price changes, again, volatility for the last 48 months. But look what's happened in the last couple. I mean, when you start talking a almost 2-point drop per week, again, that's something that you really need to pay attention to. Whatever your total inventory amount is, minus 2%, take a look at that in the morning, right? So that's why it's so important to understand the data. And Bob, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to spend some time on this next one. I'm going to go down these one at a time. I'm going to leave you guys with some to-dos here. So look, I traveled the country for the last 20 plus years talking to dealers, and I come from a retail background. I got almost 32 years of retail experience, a little bit of banking, a little bit of wholesale. But I've walked a lot. I've done shook hands. I've made sales. I've missed sales. I've managed inventories. I've mismanaged inventories. I always tell everybody, look, I wasn't really great at everything I did, but I sure learned all the things not to do. And if I can help you do that, I think that's a heads up, right? So we had a little bit of a cushion, I could say, over the last 24, 48 months, meaning it's very rare, and I can only remember all my years of this business it happening one time prior to that, and I was back, I want to say 2011-ish, when things went crazy, and it is the only time, if we could go back historically and look at some of this stuff, it's the only time where you could buy a vehicle wholesale and then wholesale it 3 months from there and still make a profit. Like that, it's only happened twice in history. And I think on that note, I think the happening now, that is history. It's not happening. We are truly on that slow glide path to somewhat normal, and I hate to use the words, it's a little cliche, but the new normal. Things I don't think will ever be exactly the way they were before. But as you know, the business is very cyclical, and we'll go back to having too many cars in stock, which we're headed for now. Then we'll get more rebates, then we'll be more leasing, and then the cycle will start over again. But the highs and lows that we've hit in the last 48, I think they're few and far between. And hopefully in my lifetime, we won't see the craziness again. But now we're here. So the things that we used to do prior to that, we used to be very careful about our inventory. We used to be very particular about what we bought, how we bought it, where we bought it, all that. But then all of a sudden it changed. It's like, I just need cars. I need a car to sell right now today. And if I get that car, no matter where I get it, no matter what I pay for it, I'm going to be able to sell it for more. That's a pretty easy job. Well, it's not that easy anymore. So I'm going to give you a to-do list to make life better, to get back to normal, to get back to business, basically. So everyone, I'm sure, on this call has some type of inventory management system. There's Max Digital, there's Viato, there's VinQ. There are a lot of good ones out there, right? These are all these inventory management tools are just that. They're tools. You got to understand how to use them, and I'll give you the quick versions here. They all call them something a little bit different, but we have to get back to managing our inventory by these three types of vehicles: core, non-core, and sell. Core meaning those are the vehicles. Your store has a DNA, right? It's your store's DNA. You do really well with these types of cars. The data proves that out. Use the tool, use the data. You know what vehicles you do well with. We'll talk about sourcing those here in a minute, but you know what you do well with. Now, there's the opposite of that, and I'm going to skip around a little bit here, is sell. The data says and tells you clearly that every time you have one of those, that vehicle, no matter what you do, will not sell as fast or for as high as gross profit. In fact, a lot of the times with a sell car, you might have to take that to the auction or take that to sell that car to a sister store, do something to get rid of it, get it off the lot, because you're just losing money every single day. Now, non-core, that's the one that we just don't really know about. I call those try-me cars. Hey, look, you're taking in trades. If it's not a sell car or core car, I call it a try-me car. Take it in trade, you can probably take a little bit more risk on that vehicle until it's proven to be a sell car or a core vehicle. So don't be afraid of any of them, but understand all three. Core vehicle, I sell that faster for higher gross profit every single time I have one. Non-core vehicles, I just don't have the data. The systems can't tell me if I'm going to do good with it, so I probably got to be a little careful, and I don't want it to sit in my inventory too long before I sell it. But then there's the sell car. The minute you take it in trade, that car is not going to work for you. You need to get that to a sister store or get that off on a wholesale platform of some sort. Now let's talk about, now that you understand, you got to use these tools, by the way. It's not use it once a week. It's not look at your inventory management tool every Monday. It's not even look at it every day. It's look at it in the morning, look at it in the afternoon, look at it in the evening. Look at it every time you're trying to take in a trade. Look at it every time you're trying to buy a car wholesale. Look at it every time you have a consumer trying to sell you their car. That's what those tools are for. So now we understand the vehicles that we need to get us through this volatility. How do I get them? Okay, well, there's a couple of things we need to talk about here. The world has changed the way we acquire vehicles. Why is that? Well, remember, it was always go to a physical or a digital auction. You could pretty much find the run list, find the car you want to buy, put a proxy on it, or wait till it goes live, and you can do it over video or however you want to do it to buy the car. Well, then all of a sudden there wasn't any. There just weren't. Everything dried up. Now what do? Then all of a sudden it became very important to put that sign out front of your store. Now look, I know that's old school, but if you don't have a sign out front of your store, one of those sandwich signs, and it simply says, "We buy cars, pay top dollar," you're probably missing 3 to 4 cars a month. Let me say that again. Cheap sign. Let's call it under 100. We buy cars, pay top dollar. You're probably missing 3 to 5 cars a month. That's what I get from the folks that I talk to, the dealers that I talk to that do and do not have that. Once they put that sign up, it brings people in. So cheapest thing you could do to get the car. Now, is that a car you're going to need? I don't know. Go to your inventory management system. That'll tell you if that's one of the cars you need. But the point here is, this is a whole new thing. It's not just going to the wholesale auction. It's your service drive. It's using new technology. It's widgets in your website. It's a different, separate website from your current store website that says, hey, I buy more cars and I live in Phoenix. I buy more cars in Phoenix, Arizona than anybody in town. I'm your Phoenix, Arizona buyer. Whatever you want to make up on that website that's separate from your dealership. Other folks, some dealers make it part of their website. a big part of their website. The first thing that happens is a pop-up, hey, you want to sell us your car? We pay top dollar. All these little things add up. And the one thing I want, this new technology that's out there with these widgets and things that you can put in there, they've done the math. Here at ACV, we understand what it takes to get a consumer. How many questions will they answer? What questions will they answer? What kind of technology do we need to, AI is the new big thing. Is there AI built into the technology you're using that will help that consumer take the pictures of the cars, get the exact value of that vehicle so there's no argument when they show up? Because that's the biggest piece, is keep things consistent. When you tell a customer their vehicle is worth X, it's got to be worth that all the way down the line unless you have a really good reason why it's not, and you can prove that out. Last thing I want to talk about here is just a second. This is what's really going to tie this in with what Bob's got going on here, is evidence manual. You remember back in the day, I had it in my lot. I had 2 used car lots, and I learned it from one of the stores, new car stores that I ran. I always had my evidence manual, right? There was a file sitting on the dash or the seat of every car. Here's the work that I did on this vehicle, and here's the next service that's due. I know what you're thinking, Doug, next service due, are you crazy? Why would I tell them that? I don't know. When you're taking a car in trade and you're looking at it, do you ever bring up the fact that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I know you're trading this car, but it needs a service soon. And you deduct that value. They're doing the same thing. The consumer is going to do the same thing to you. So why not get it up front? Here's the next service due. We've already added that into the price. We know why this vehicle's worth what it's worth. And this is why we're asking, because we know that. And by the way, here's a coupon for a huge discount on that next service. So all I'm trying to say is this: consumers are smarter than ever. Consumers are a supplier for your used vehicle inventory more than ever. And the one thing too I want to make sure everybody understands is they're also future customers when they sell you a car, meaning they come in to sell you their car because they don't need it, they need the cash, whatever reason they need it. Treat them like a true customer and treat them like a future customer. Because if you treat them really well, and all they're doing is offering that extra car to you, who are they going to think about the next time you need one? They need one, right? Hey, I sold my car to Doug, and he was just great about it, and he really helped me out. So I need another car. I need a car for the kids. I'm going to give him a call and see what he says. So hopefully that kind of sets the pace here for Bob. I got to tell you guys, the business has changed a lot, but it's still a people business. Treat the customers right. Tell them why their vehicle is worth what it's worth, and show them why your vehicle's worth what it's worth. And that's it for me. Bob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Doug. It's always a pleasure working with you, and you bring a lot of insight to the table, and it's always a pleasure teaming up with AIADA and doing these used car presentations, and I couldn't think of a better partner than Doug to do it with. We want to take a look at future cost, right? And what is future cost? Well, there is no crystal ball. No one has a crystal ball that can tell you what's even going to happen tomorrow. But the best predictor of the future is the past, right? When you look at perceptions, when you look at how the public thinks, when you look at what drives the future, the best predictor of the future is the past. And if we look at it, we're going to look at 4 quick segments today. We want to look at today's marketplace. You just saw Doug go through a little bit of what's created the marketplace and what's been driving it. So we're going to take a quick snapshot of that just so we're setting the table. But then we're going to quickly go into what information are buyers looking for today, and how can we give that information to the buyers in a way that will make our vehicles worth more, right? How does the value proposition, how has it changed today, right? Then we're going to look at how to write a quality description that finds the right buyer for your vehicle, all right? So today's marketplace, we've all been through a lot, and the last 5-6 years have been tumultuous at best. We kept waiting for the new normal, as Doug alluded to a couple times. Well, we've been out of it long enough to know what that new normal looks like. And one of the things dealers have done is kind of planted the seed that we need to shake off a little bit. You see, there's no question there's been a tight inventory crunch at especially our franchise dealers. There's no question, you look on your lots, it doesn't have as many cars as it would like, it doesn't have the type of cars you would like, but at the end of the day, it's about the consumer. It's the consumer who buys our vehicles. And when you look at it from the consumer's perspective, I think you might be amazed just how many cars are out there, right? So I encourage you to do this. Take your zip code where your dealership's located, keep it to 50 miles. You go past 50 miles and it becomes arguable. But use your center zip code of where you're located and look at the listing services. And when you look at the average amount of cars on listing services, I think you might be shocked. For example, Chicago, 40,000. Dallas, 44,000. Los Angeles, 65,000. Atlanta, 42,000. Newark, 65,000. Remember, people sell cars to people. Franchise dealers sell used cars. Independent dealers sell used cars. The market still has a tremendous amount of inventory to the consumer when they're looking for a car. So, what are they looking for in a used car today? Well, let's look at our old friends Google. Google came out with this study that says in the last 2 years, reliability searches are up 70%. Again, think about that. Reliability searches are up 70%. If anything changes by 5%, everyone pays attention. We're literally talking 70% increase over the last 2 years in reliability searches. Consumer Reports, when they're giving advice to consumers on finding the right used car, look at what they're saying. Review the history. It'll alert you to signs of trouble such as poor maintenance history. Again, the best predictor of the future is the past. Public perception will tell you that a vehicle that's been well taken care of and maintained is less likely to break down. So again, use the tools you have at your disposal. If you think about it this way, for 100 years, we sold cars using the old Foursquare method, right? Using the old Foursquare method. The sale price, how much is my trade worth? What's your down payment? What's your payment? We picked a square, we worked it. All this information has become readily available in standard practice online, especially as a result of COVID-19. The dealers that were slow to react have gotten much better because they needed to survive. Well, with all this information now online, the consumer has all that information before they contact you. So your conversation has got to be different. Your conversation has got to be what they are looking for, which is future cost, right? So when we look at it, you know, we've done a lot of research with a lot of dealers talking directly to the salespeople, and we simply asked one question. When customers are talking to you about your used cars, what are they asking you? What do they want to know? Well, look at the very first one on the list. Where did you get it? So think about it. For the last 3 years, everyone's been told there's no inventory. All the dealers advertise, we'll buy your car, we'll buy your car, we'll buy your car. All the news press has said, there's no inventory, there's no inventory. So of course, it makes sense that the consumer's first question is going to ask, where did you get the car, right? But once you answer that, where did you get it? They want to know who owned it. Was it taken care of? What did you find wrong with it? What did you do to it? Does it have a warranty? When is it going to need brakes and tires? So again, look at the way we advertise online. Everyone's very competitive market pricing. All the listings kind of look the same. So the customer is trying to differentiate which car makes the most sense. And the way they're doing that today is different than the way they did it pre-COVID. They're wanting to know future cost. Without question, the best vehicle to address future costs is what is known as homegrown inventory. So what the heck is homegrown inventory? Well, for you franchise dealers out there, you had it as new car inventory and you sold it, right? It was in your inventory and you sold it. You then took care of all the service and maintenance history of that vehicle. The customer brought it back to your shop. You've done all the service and maintenance to it. It got traded in or lease returned. Lease return adding even more value because the public perception of a person's lease car is that it's been immaculately taken care of. You've done all the reconditioning at your dealership, and now it's for sale in your used car inventory. You've had this vehicle its entire life cycle. It is known as homegrown inventory. It is the fastest selling, most profitable inventory there is. It is the most sought after inventory by consumers today. But you need to be able to tell them about it. You need to make your car stand out in a crowd. Remember those numbers, 44,000, 50,000, 45,000, 60,000. How do you get your car to stand out? How do you make your car the red car? Question first, would you rather 100 leads or 10 people at the door? The only reason you want a lead is to get the people to the door. So let the internet do what it can do best, which is find the right buyer for the car. Okay? Remember, no two used vehicles are the same. Stop making them look the same online, right? The most common complaint by customers online today is that they can't tell the difference in the vehicles, right? They can't tell the difference in the vehicles. So again, we drive pricing. We drive to market pricing. Everyone's concerned about average market pricing. Well, in order to make average market pricing, you got to reduce the higher values and raise the lower values to average. That's what it means. And that automatically makes you wrong 2 out of 3 times. So what are those higher value targets? Well, they're personally owned or lease returns. They're one owner vehicles. They're well-maintained vehicles. They're accident-free vehicles. When's the last time you could steal one of those? Why would you arbitrarily lower the retail value of that just to hit average, right? Just to hit average. Why would you do that? Lower price vehicles, lower valued vehicles. These are the rental units, the fleet units, the multiple owner units, the vehicles with accidents, the ones that don't have a good service history. Why would you arbitrarily raise those? Just because market says so, all you're doing then is adding aging. As a matter of fact, deals are lost because 70% of your consumers coming in have a trade-in. And these are typically the higher valued vehicles that we tend to, quote unquote, try to steal, and it costs us our car deals. All right? So again, just to sum up this section, and we'll give you the practical application to take with you. There's some history elements that add value to a vehicle. There's some that lower. And when you're looking at market pricing, all history elements affect the value of a vehicle. Remember, the best predictor of the future is the past. Okay? Cox Automotive, our friends at Cox Automotive tell us that the first point of contact with a used vehicle customer is at the front door, not the phone, not the email, not online chat. So your point of contact is online. You need to have a conversation. You need to be able to tell the story before they visit one of your salespeople. You need to be able to tell that story before they email you. So how do you do that? Well, you do it well. I'll show you 3 slides that you should stop doing. These are just screenshots. Everyone has turned the used car business into the new car business, right? We make it look and feel like they're new cars. Key features. Look at the description. It's just talking about standard equipment. Then we give them all the standard equipment. That's why consumers are frustrated. They know the car came with power windows, power locks, tilt, cruise. You can't even name a vehicle that doesn't come with that stuff. So don't waste their time telling them what they already knew. We then give them a window sticker, which is great, but that also tells them all the things they already knew about standard equipment. Use the history. The best predictor of the future is the past. Use the history to explain who owned it. Remember the questions they're asking. Where did it come from? Who owned it? Was it taken care of? What did you find wrong with it? Use the report to tell them these things, right? Again, no accidents or damage, been well maintained, one owner vehicle, personal lease, that's as good as it gets, right? So we're looking at this vehicle. You just saw all the generic online activity they gave and the way they described it. Let's make it more robust with that same exact vehicle by using the history. Again, type of owner, personal lease. It's as good as it gets, but only if you tell the story. Service records. This dealership sold this vehicle when it was brand new, have done all the service and maintenance on the vehicle, did the reconditioning, and now it's for sale in their used car lot. Again, as good as it gets. Use the information and turn this information into a description that will find the right buyer for your car online. Okay? So here is what that description should look like. I'll leave this up for a second, and believe it or not, I'll shut up for 10 seconds so you can read it. All right, just traded in this beautiful personal lease, accident-free, one owner 2020 Infiniti QX50. The original owner had our certified Infiniti technicians perform all the recommended service and maintenance. In fact, we have taken care of this QX50 its whole life. We knew this vehicle would make the perfect Infiniti certified vehicle, so we put it through the Infiniti 167-point inspection. This QX50 now comes with a 2-year unlimited miles comprehensive warranty, 24-hour roadside assistance, and 1-year free maintenance. Don't miss out on this well-maintained QX50 priced below CARFAX industry-based value. Now again, this is the conversation. It's a conversation you're having with the prospective buyer. Consumers hate bullet point. Make it a conversation. Again, use the history report to back up the price. In this case, this dealer absolutely could have asked $2,000 more for that vehicle or $1,500 more for that vehicle, or if they want to be conservative, $1,000 more for that vehicle. But only if they allow the consumer to understand why it's worth more, why they're asking more. Okay, will it cost you some traffic? Probably, but it'll increase your buying traffic. It'll increase the quality of your traffic. It will allow you to ask more for a car that's worth more by finding the right buyer for your vehicle. And with that, we would like to say thank you to AIDA, and we'd like to have it open for any questions you might have. Rachel, back to you.
Bob, Doug, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always fun when you guys are on. Again, you will all be receiving a copy of this webinar by later this week. To those on the line, join us back here next Tuesday, December 5th at 2 p.m. Eastern as Dell talks big business IT on a small business budget. For more information about AIADA, visit aiada.org. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day, everyone.